changing the game in all sorts of mediums, including VR. Break it down for us. What's going on in VR?
Well, there's a lot of people trying a lot of different things to try to create interesting experiences in VR, either sort of computer-generated, kind of game engine-based fantasy lands, but also what I'm more interested in, which is documentary and nonfiction, but using kind of 360 cameras to be able to shoot in every direction, and try to see how that helps us tell stories, tell documentary stories better.
Yeah, we're cut from the same cloth. I mean, the people who watch this docu-series, which is called Behind the Brand, it's really about pulling the curtain back and revealing, all that there is behind the scenes.
Yeah. So if this was in 360 right now, you'd see all the people like walking behind the camera and everything else, which is kind of cool. But it's really about like what's the best use for that technology.
Right.
There's a lot of novelty and a lot of hype about VR. But like we're more interested in trying to kind of figure out what is the best use for this technology. Is it better than traditional film, or if it is in different ways? I don't think it's VR as a replacement for traditional media, but I think it's an interesting place to experiment and try and see what we can do.
In your talk, you talked about keeping it simple. Maybe look into the camera and give some of these aspiring filmmakers and content creators, maybe even brand people who are thinking about original content, give them some advice.
Yeah. Simplicity is always, I think, the hardest thing to achieve with any piece of media. I'm constantly trying to think of what's the simplest way to tell this story, try to strip away anything that's distraction from the story. So, especially in virtual reality, when you can kind of look in every direction, and there is so much to take in visually, what you are telling the viewer orally, and how you do that and when you do it, is really, really, really critical, because it's very easy to overwhelm a viewer with information, especially in VR, but in any kind of media communication. So strip it down, try to get to the essential poetry or the essential story or the core of the idea that you're getting at, and don't kind of succumb to having to have a lot of stuff going on and a lot of bells and whistles. Just try to keep it simple.
The other part of this audience, they're entrepreneurs. They're doing their thing, or they're working for the man and they're plotting their escape, as on top.
Yeah.
The term starving artist is around for a reason. Sometimes it doesn't work out with money. What advice would you give these budding entrepreneurs who are, maybe it's not filmmaking or documentary creation, but what advice would you give them?
Well, I'm a huge fan and practitioner and proponent of DIY, doing it yourself. Starting your own independent business or project or event or whatever, at least trying it. I always feel like there is such a fear of failure or a fear of how do I keep paying the bills, and there are a lot of ways that you can kind of straddle a couple different careers, like a day job, and try to do some independent projects. I think when I started doing this, which was in the 90s with independent record labels, the hard part was always kind of trying to reach the audience. You had to do it via kind of going out on tour with bands. There wasn't, with the web, it's like so much easier to connect with the people that want the same things that you do, want to watch what you're making. Now the problem is everybody else can access it too, and there's so much noise. So it's about kind of trying to cut through that noise somehow. But I've always been, I've always wanted to bring in the audience for a project and let them be a part of its creation. They call that crowdfunding now, which I do more than just trying to get money from the people that are the audience for my films. I also want their ideas. I want their own. They're the people that I'm making the films for. I'm making them for myself too. But I'm not the biggest expert on any of the subjects that I make films on. There are many people who know way more than I do. So it makes sense as an independent to try to bring in all that knowledge and all those resources and get it involved in the project.
I was going to ask, is that part of your selection process? I mean, the subject matter is very non-fiction-y. I mean, it's like recycling aircraft or inside the architecture of a well-known but past historic figure.
It's all just about what I'm interested in, or what music and scenic are interested in.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that drives us. It's not even about like, is anybody going to care about this stuff?
Yeah.
We try not to think about that. We try to think about like, what would we want to watch in VR?
So you're not trying to capture lighting in a bottle. You know, you're thinking about the audience, but you're not. You're also trying to lead the audience.
Yeah, but it's like you're going to do your best work on something that you're passionate about, that you love, and I don't think there's any substitute for that. And there's no market study that's going to show you what that is. So you just have to go with what you want, and it's just about connecting with the other people that like that stuff too. So for us, it is about following our own obsessions and trying to document those, whether it's in photographs or traditional video or virtual reality. The subject matter is still things that we're passionate about, and then what medium we use to kind of document that just depends on what the subject matter is and what suits it best. That's our decision to use VR. It's not like let's come up with the greatest virtual reality thing and sell it to Microsoft.
Great.
That probably should be our plan.
All right, you heard it here first. Thanks, Gary. Appreciate the
Thank you.